Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things with you? I hope it's fantastic. I was having a conversation with a friend last week or 2 weeks ago or something or whatever, and I said something, and then he parroted it back to me as a quote and said, "Man, I really like that." And the idea was he's learning a new skill that you asked for some advice or whatever. And my response to him was, oh, we were talking about gear. I feel like with any hobby, music or photography or art or woodworking or whatever, there's always that, well, I can't do this until I have the gear. And the person who knows how to do whatever it is you're trying to do knows that that's not true, because they know a way to do it without whatever the gear is you're thinking of. But you don't know that because you don't know what you don't know. Like I've said that 1,000 times. When you don't know what you don't know, that's when you have to try. And my response to him and the skill that he was trying to learn was you can't buy the answer. Like the answer doesn't, you can't just go pay money and have the answer. In this particular case, it was photography and he was trying to take a better shot. And I said, if you know the specifics, I asked him, what are you looking for? And he said, I want to take better pictures. Okay, you can't buy that answer. There is no, I can't tell you, here's the piece of gear that will magically make you a better photographer. That does not exist. What are the specifics? You can buy the answer if you know the question, but the problem is you don't even know the question, so there's no way to buy the answer, right? The question is, all right, you want to take a better picture. What kind of picture? Portrait? Landscape? What's the lighting like? What's the, what's the motion of your subject? What, are you looking for sharpness or are you looking for softness? Like there's 1,000 variables. And when you start asking those questions, you go, oh, I don't know. And you go, yeah, you can't buy that answer because you don't know the question. You haven't figured it out yet. I've been learning Ableton, which is a digital audio workstation. It's a music production tool for a few weeks now, and I have built probably 3 or 4 different synth modules, not coded, but like used built-in tools to make my own synth sounds, make my own sampling synths, that kind of stuff. I've downloaded a couple of plugins, not very many, because I feel like if you overwhelm yourself with choice, it's much harder to learn. And I've been trying to learn just the basics. And what I discovered is the same thing. I can't buy the answer, right? Like I don't know the question. For instance, I wanted to learn how to play a backing track while I'm playing bass. Just that simple, I have an audio interface. I can plug my bass in. I can hear it. Okay, how do I play something and then use the bass, right? I wanted to use the workstation to do things like slow down the tempo or speed up the tempo, change pitches, whatever. Play a backing track that I can then just play bass to. And I found that to be a very difficult thing to discover because whenever you search for backing tracks or whatever, you get taken to like bands, like your favorite touring band probably uses Ableton on stage. If they're a big enough, like an arena band, 100% uses backing tracks on stage. They'll use Ableton for a click track, so they're all playing to the same tempo. They'll use Ableton for lights. It can control lights via MIDI. It can control, there might be instruments that were on the album that they don't have with them, so they'll play those as backing tracks. And that's what I kept finding, was like, it's trying to get me to use this in a stage environment. That's not what I'm attempting to do, but it also kind of is. I'm kind of just wanting to play bass and hear a backing track. It took me a while to figure that out. But once I figured out what the question was, I got the answer, I learned it. And now I'm learning how to take a sample. For instance, I have various sounds like my dishwasher or my table saw or even rain, and make that sample musical, meaning turn it into a synthesized sound that I can then use as a voice on a keyboard or whatever. That's been a really big struggle because I'm using Ableton Lite, which came with a MIDI controller that I have, which is even less powerful than the basic version of Ableton that you can buy. which is it's extremely limited. Like it's very limited. And in this case, today I discovered, I can buy the answer. The answer was free. It was a plugin that I could download that another company made that will do what I was trying to do with Ableton. But knowing the answer requires knowing the question. I think that's the real thing. The real topic, the real idea I'm trying to put across here is you can't know the answer, or you can't get to the answer if you don't know the question. And when you're new at something, knowing the question is sometimes the hardest part. Because, I'm working on a problem, or not a problem, but I'm working on a section of a project at work that is, I need to take an older tool that was built by a previous employee and bring it into something a little bit more maintainable for us. And when I look at it, it's complete nonsense. Like the tool was, it was maybe when it was written, it was a useful tool because there wasn't a different automation process for that particular thing. But I doubt it. I think that thing could have existed. But the person who created that tool, this is what he knows. He knows this programming language. He knows how to do X, Y, and Z, and he's just going to make it do that and not worry about learning if there's a better or easier or more functional way without him having to put a whole bunch of custom code out into the world that somebody now has to maintain. And it's frustrating because I think that he just didn't know the question. And the question was, do I need to do this? And the answer was no, absolutely not. This was not a necessary thing for you to sit and create when we could have just used a pre-existing tool. Obviously, I like recreating the wheel. I very much learned from recreating the wheel. So I would have probably done the same thing. But I know now that there are better ways because I've figured out the questions. And I think learning the questions, what are the questions I should be asking? That's the goal for me practicing any sort of new skill. Learning my base, I'm trying to figure out what is the next question I need to ask. Not what am I struggling with. I know what I'm struggling with, but how do I get there? That's just repetition, right? What am I not struggling with yet because I don't know yet, right? What is the next question? The next question is, all right, how do I do ear training, whatever. That's a very important skill to develop. So I'm going to go work on that. I'm going to go work on the song that I've been working on. And I hope to someday, soonish, have some songs available that you can listen to that will be nothing. Like they'll be, I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to minimize them. They'll be ambient kind of, not songs, not like a radio play song. They'll be experimental and ambient and strange because that's what I like. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's 1,000 plus little things happy, successful people do differently. We are learning 19 quick tricks to feel better instantly. Number 9. Take a few deep, controlled breaths. Deep breathing helps reduce stress, a source of fatigue, and increases the level of oxygen in the blood. Techniques can be as simple as inhaling for 5 seconds, holding your breath for 4 seconds, and exhaling for 4 seconds. You can also try more elaborate techniques that require different positions. I've heard of the box technique is something that I've used, and that is simply inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, repeat. That works. There's also the, this suggests a 5-4-4. There is a, I think it's the 7. I think you want to exhale more than you inhale. So it'd be like inhale for 5, hold for 6, and exhale for 7 or something like that. Or maybe it's 6, 7, and 8. I think it's a 6, 7, 8. Inhale for 6, hold for 7, exhale for 8. That's a good one. I used to use that one quite a bit.